Welcome into the Augusta Business Review. Good Friday morning to you. Bill Botham here with Dr. William Schiff from the Augusta Pain Center. Welcome in. Thanks for spending some time with us today.
Thank you for having me.
You're the, Director of Behavioral Health at Augusta Pain Center. Is that a fair description?
That is correct.
And a psychologist by trade. Why a psychologist at a pain center?
Psychology is a pretty broad field. A lot of people think psychologists and they think craziness or that there's something necessarily wrong with them in the head. And that's not really what I do. A health psychologist or a behavioral psychologist kind of looks at the factors that affect a person's treatment when it comes to chronic pain or other chronic health conditions. It can be pretty tough to have these things and it affects your life on all different levels. And there are a lot of factors that affect success. So a health psychologist or a behavioral psychologist kind of looks at all those factors and tries to mitigate or control those things, as well as trying to optimize your strengths or traits that would make treatment much more likely to be successful.
Some of those strengths or traits might be?
Spiritual faith is a big one. When we look at the research, we see people who have a high spiritual faith tend to be more successful. So a person who has chronic pain, has difficulty going to church, may encourage that or find some way that they could tap into that because they're more likely to be successful.
Makes sense to me, not that it needs to. Now, when we talked with Dr. D'Angelo last month, he mentioned a multidisciplinary approach. That's how things are handled at Augusta Pain Center. I take it then that this aspect, the mental health aspect, is a big key of that.
It certainly is. We're pretty complicated individuals. When we look at monotherapy or just doing the one-trick pony type thing, when we treat individuals as machines, we tend to have less chance of success. When we look at the person as a whole, it allows us to really customize the treatment plan, to look at each individual factor and create a plan that address each of those things. We're more likely to be successful based on the research, address their quality of life, their relationships, friendships, socioeconomics factors. All those things play a role that simple medical interventions may be affected by.
What then, I hope this isn't too broad a question, what then is the connection between the brain and the body in pain management? Does one direct the other, or is it a two-way street?
I think it's a mistake to think of them as two different things. They very much, one directly affects the other. A person says, if I feel poorly or depressed, they kind of conceptualize this different aspect, like there's something on the inside that is sick or bad, but it's all chemistry, it's all biology, and one very much does affect the other, and that's why it's important to pay attention to it. Yeah, it's not that like the mental health stuff causes the pain per se. There's this physical thing that's occurring. The mental health stuff makes it a lot worse, makes it less, or makes it more difficult to treat. We have good days and bad days, and by controlling some of those factors that are affected by the mental health component, we're more likely to have good days than bad.
You mentioned doing evaluations. At what point do you see patients at Augusta Pain Center? When does the behavioral health aspect come into play in their trip through?
When a person comes into Augusta Pain Center, they usually see one of the doctors first, Dr. Epter or Dr. D'Angelo, and they'll make a determination whether it's necessary to see behavioral health. Now, most of our patients do tend to go through this evaluation, especially if they're being considered for opioid pain medications. Every patient does need to go through an evaluation like this if they're being considered for that stuff. But they might also be referred for behavioral pain treatment options like biofeedback or behavioral pain management, kind of an educational piece or compliance monitoring. So a fair number of patients do go through this evaluation. It's not at all an indication whether they're crazy or someone thinks that their pain isn't real. It's just part of the multidisciplinary approach, and it's all here to help the patient. It allows them more likely to be successful in overcoming this barrier or getting the treatment that they want or even deserve.
In there, you mentioned a phrase that I want to follow up, behavioral pain management. Talk a little bit more about that and explore that after the break.
Sure thing.
We'll be right back. This is News Talk WGAC. Welcome back into the Augusta Business Review. Bill Botham chatting with Dr. William Schiff from Augusta Pain Center. Of course, you can find them on the web at AugustaPainCenter.com. Local telephone number is 706-738-PAIN. That translates to 706-738-7246. All of that information, locations, and some information on the facility and their philosophy, all available at AugustaPainCenter.com. And Dr. Schiff, I was borderline rude at the beginning, but because I just really dove right in without asking you a little bit about yourself, background, how you came to be in Augusta, and how you like it here.
Oh, I love the South, actually. When I first came down, I was like, this is more my personality style. Born and raised in New Jersey, Freehold Township. After that, I went to D.C., a fantastic place as well, and went to school there. Was there for about 5 years. Went back to New Jersey for a short while, spent some time really kind of getting some of my experiences in this field, particularly. And then I was offered an opportunity down here, and certainly the weather is much better.
At Augusta Pain Center, as we said at the outset of the show for any of you who just joining us, he's the director of behavioral health, the psychologist. One of the phrases that turns up when I visit the website at AugustaPainCenter.com is health psychology. Can you give us an explanation of basically what that is?
So health psychology is specifically a psychologist who is working with individuals with chronic illnesses, diabetes, brain injuries, strokes, dementias, as well as chronic pain. Someone who really kind of addresses some of the things that may be commonly associated with those conditions that may not be easily addressed by the physician that they're working with. Things like being able to better cope with their particular illness, about changing their lifestyles to better suit or address those particular problems. For example, let's say we're talking about a diabetic. There's a lot of things that a person might need to change to successfully treat diabetes: diet and exercise. And if it was a very easy thing, we wouldn't have such an issue. I certainly struggle with my own weight, and it's a pretty hard thing. But there are particular reasons why a person might have difficulty with that, and that's what a health psychologist would address: is looking at those factors that address or make it difficult for that person to make a change. It also kind of helps the patient to be able to make some adjustment to sometimes pretty devastating illnesses, a big change to quality of life. If I'm an amputee, I'm never going to be happy that I don't have a leg, but I still could have a quality of life. I could come to terms and make peace with that, and as a result, move on from there. If I'm kind of stuck, having lost my leg, or trying to live the lifestyle I had when I had 2 legs, that individual's going to struggle quite a bit. One of the biggest things that I even see most of our patients falls into 2 categories. I overdo it and try to push through the pain, in which case they have this huge pain flare up and they're suffering. Or I do too little, I hurt too much, so I avoid doing things. So you have this extreme of me trying to fight against it or do nothing and avoid it, and that doesn't lead to a good quality of life.
Is that where behavioral pain management comes in?
Yeah, it's looking at their day-to-day activities, their kind of thinking process behind why they're doing some things, kind of educate them on why they need to do things a little bit differently. This is all based on the research. Individuals who tend to do well do things a little bit differently, and you might be able to figure it out by trial and error, but you could also have someone who could tell you exactly what needs to be done, help you through that process, and as a result have a much better success.
Can I put you on the spot and ask what an example might be of a lifestyle change for somebody with, say, chronic back pain?
Here's a common one. An individual with chronic back pain may have real difficulty in managing and cleaning their house. If most individuals are like me, you might just spend 3 hours, bang it out, get it all done. But with chronic pain, you really can't do that. You spend 3 hours trying to clean. In fact, a lot of our chronic pain patients may say, I can't even do 5 minutes of vacuuming. They're going to be miserable. And then the next 2 days, they're trying to recover from that pain that they've done. A good example of trying to change that is that they may have to do something we refer to as time-based pacing. They do it for a certain amount of time, something within their limits, and then rest for a certain amount of time. Then they could go back to it, and they kind of zigzag back and forth with that. And then progressively over time, be able to do more. You see that they're able to activate and function much better, have a lot less of the pain. When you look overall, the grand scheme of things, their level of activation actually goes up as opposed to dropping down as you're being punished.
You do have support groups where they can actually learn best practices from each other. Talk to us a little bit about that.
So we have the support group that meets twice a month, first Friday of every month at 10:30, and the third Monday of every month at 5:30. And it's an opportunity for individuals as well as their family members to meet other individuals with the same type of issues or problems. Back pain or neck pain, fibromyalgia, or other chronic conditions. It's an opportunity to kind of share your own experience, to have someone to feel that this person knows exactly how I feel because they're going through the same exact thing. Hear what they do that's successful and or helps them, or to be able to share your own experience, and that makes people feel good as well. It's also an opportunity for the family members, because family members, really want to be there. They want to help, and if they start trying to help too much, it could be an issue. If they don't help enough, sometimes they try tough love approaches, and that doesn't work out too well. Be able to hear what a family member is going through from a third party, from a neutral party, is pretty powerful.
All right, the logistics one more time on the group meetings.
We meet the first Friday of every month at 10:30, and the first Monday or the third Monday of every month at 5:30.
They do ask that you RSVP to check for any cancellations or possible changes. You can follow along on Facebook. Look for Augusta Pain Center Behavioral Health Services on Facebook. Regular updates and notifications are posted there. The main website, of course, is AugustaPainCenter.com. You can give them a call at 706-738-PAIN. Doctor, thanks so much for coming by today. It's a fascinating subject, and I really enjoyed getting to dive into it, or at least scratch the surface with you. Thank you for your time.
No problem. Thank you for having me. No problem.